I'm joined now by Ryan Costello. He's the policy director with the National Iranian American Council. So Ryan, a lot of things happening right now, but first I want to get your take and your assessment on what's going on right now.
Well, it's a very scary situation right now because at the same time that the government is cracking down on protesters across the country, it's throttled the internet. So the internet is operating at about 5% of its capacity, and that leads to a lot of scary conclusions about what the Iranian government is doing. We've seen videos filter out of clashes with the security services, and then the Iranian government firing on protesters and people being killed. So it's a very scary situation. A lot of Iranian Americans are trying to contact friends and family in Iran, and because the government has shut down the internet, they're not able to get through and get word that their loved ones are all right.
This all started as a protest over gasoline prices. But it goes further than that. How much of this has to do with the current state of Iran's economy and the U.S. sanctions that have taken hold there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix, right? There's always been a lot of anger directed at the government over corruption, over failed management of the economy, over repressing of their right to protest and so forth, like we saw in 2009, in 2017, in 2018, and again today, where there are mass protests. And at the same time, the Trump administration has taken a very strong line and doubled down in pressuring the Iranian people because they are sanctioning the entire Iranian economy. Now, one of the things that we've pointed out is that this is also extended into the tech sphere, and it's actually stifled the internet in a lot of ways because you have commercial services like Amazon, like Apple, like GitHub, which allows for the sharing of code, pull out of Iran and say Iranians can't have access to our services because that would violate U.S. sanctions. That is creating a double barrier on the internet that is really harming the ability of Iranians to organize on the ground.
You mentioned a list of protests over the years, even very recently. How do you see this all playing out?
I'm a little bit pessimistic right now about where this all ends. There's a lot of violence on from the protests, from the security services cracking down, and unfortunately, there's no sign of the sanctions being relieved. There's no sign that there's a willingness on the Trump administration to take actions that actually do benefit the Iranian people. And so they're being squeezed from all sides, both the repression of their own government and a very bleak economic situation and harmful impacts on humanitarian trade, on their ability to access the outside world. I think a lot of people would hope that the Trump administration would return to the negotiating table and ease some of the pressure that's impacting the Iranian people. But right now, they have just signaled an interest in pressure only.
What does this say to you when you look around the world and see, again, this started over a price hike, but different protests, especially in Latin America, Ecuador, Chile, and we look to the Middle East, Lebanon, protests happening there as well with a price hike of some sorts.
Yeah, well, I think it signals that there are a lot of governments around the world that really ultimately fail their people, and that when people go out into the streets and they protest, like in Iran, they have no other alternative. There's not a viable democratic alternative to go out and get sanctions relieved and get hope for a better future. And so there's a lot of chaos. I think it's reflective that there are a lot of aspirations that aren't being met by governments across the world right now.
Ryan Costello, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.